Among the 183 million people estimated by the National Retail Federation to be shopping between now and Monday, or even if you're not, and you're going to do all your holiday shopping at the last possible imaginable minute, either way, beware of scams. From fake delivery texts to ads for non-existent products, now is the time to be especially careful and to remember that when a deal looks too good to be true, it probably isn't. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams has that.
Experts warn we should be particularly cautious this year if we're part of the 100 million Americans expected to shop directly on social media.
A lot of those advertisements are essentially fake brands which are being marketed.
Abhishek Karnik is Director for Threat Research and Response at McAfee. He says to watch out for AI-generated fake celebrity endorsements, too good to be true sales on hot items, or companies that ask you to use crypto or gift cards to pay for a purchase, because often
the product doesn't exist, it doesn't ever get delivered to you, or if it does get delivered to you, it could be of substandard quality.
According to the AARP, a marketplace sponsor, about 82% of consumers have been the target or the victim of a scam in the last year. Kathy Stokes is Director of Fraud Prevention Programs for the group.
If you're super interested in an ad from a company you haven't heard of before, open up your web browser and type in that company name with the word scam next to it.
Stokes says to also be careful when you're expecting a delivery. There's a common scam where criminals use texts about a delayed delivery to steal your information.
That text message that says, this is the U.S. Postal Service, or it's UPS, or it's FedEx. There's a problem with the package. We can't get it to you. We need you to click on this link or call this phone number.
Scams don't end on Black Friday. Be careful on Giving Tuesday as well, says Sarah Rathner, a credit cards expert at NerdWallet.
They're scammers that pose as legitimate charities and they try to solicit donations from you and steal your credit card information.
Rathner says rather than clicking through an email that seems to support a good cause, check to make sure that nonprofit is real first and go directly to the charity's website to donate. Finally, watch out for the less malicious holiday scams that are also kind of just marketing tricks.
The sales that you're seeing aren't necessarily sales.
Mara Einstein is the author of Hoodwinked, How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults.
So the price may be up at the beginning of November, and then they will take it down at the end of November.
Einstein warns that we shouldn't let the Black Friday or Cyber Monday FOMO, fear of missing out on a sale, trick us into buying stuff that's not on our list. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up in the 1 to 0.2% range, with Dow futures up 84 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.211%. And Google's antitrust worries have spread. Canada's antitrust watchdog is suing Google over alleged anti-competitive conduct in its online advertising business. It wants to force it to sell off 2 of its main advertising services. Alphabet stock is down 0.1% in pre-market trading.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Think or Swim. More at schwab.com.
The business of podcasting is bouncing back after a rough year in 2023. The Interactive Advertising Bureau and PwC report podcast revenue is expected to have grown by 12% this year to over $2 billion. It's predicted to grow another 10% in 2025. Some of this growth is from podcasts figuring out new ways to make money, like video. Podcast listeners in the U.S. are increasingly watching podcasts rather than listening to them. 85% of podcast listeners have watched one, at least, according to a study from independent podcast platform Acast. So when just a voice doesn't cut it, podcasters are having to become full-blown content creators. Hawa Otori has more.
For podcasters who have spent years building a business based on their voice, the shift to video is hard. Nikayla Matthews-Okome has her own independent podcast.
You're listening to Side Hustle Pro, the podcast that teaches you to build and grow your side hustle.
When podcasting was new, it took a while to figure out how it could be profitable. Offering content across multiple channels creates new connections with her listener base.
They go to Target and shop. They pick up their coffee. You don't just have to talk to them one-dimensionally.
and that appeals to more indifferent sponsors. Matthew Zakome says she's adapted her pitch to brand sponsors now that she's doing video. She's also a podcast coach. Many of her clients are thinking about video now.
The smoke and mirrors culture of social media is now making people think, in order to start a podcast, I need a studio with neon lights, plush velvet chairs.
Established podcasts are also figuring this out, including In Confianza, a podcast about being Latino in the U.S. Charlie Garcia, one of the producers, says expanding to video has changed his day-to-day.
First off, there's new software to learn. It's been figuring out how to adapt the audio-only workflow into a video workflow without having to totally gut the whole thing and redo it.
Garcia feels the pressure as he prepares to launch a new show. He's investing roughly $4,000 in equipment.
The reskilling right now is so massive. I'm stretching even farther than that.
Stretching also into social media, which iHeart Podcast president Will Pearson says can be a way for audio podcasts to expand, if it makes sense for their show.
If they really do learn to build that audience across multiple media, to be able to say, I'm doing this in social media, I'm doing this where appropriate in video.
Still, James Cridlin, editor of the Pod News newsletter, warns that these demands could create barriers for new people to get into podcasting.
If you turn making a podcast from all you need is a microphone into all you need is a microphone and some ring lights and at least 2 cameras and some editing software,
he says, then podcasting suddenly becomes far harder. I'm Hawa Otori for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.